Hi beautiful, I feel like it is Christmas morning. My package just arrived. I have been waiting for it. I've been waiting to film this video. For some reason it took more days than I expected for these to arrive, but I have them in my possession, and in today's video I am going to swatch all three of them for you. I'm going to put them all on my face, and of course I'm going to do some side-by-side comparisons with holiday palettes from previous years. I'm obviously talking about the Hourglass holiday collection, which you probably saw in the title and thumbnail of this video. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to open these, to swatch. I cannot wait to put them on my face. So if you are excited for today's video, give it a thumbs up and let's go ahead and get started. If you're interested in grabbing any of the Hourglass holiday palettes 2024 edition, please shop for them using the link I'm leaving you down below in the description box. Whenever you shop through my links, it helps out my channel, and I'll also leave down there any discount codes I might find. I saw a couple floating around recently, so if I see any discount codes that work, I'll leave them next to the link down there. I think I'm going to go from darkest to lightest, since I know that the Dragon palette, which is the lightest palette, is probably the one that suits me better. So I'm going to start with this one here. Here is the Lotus palette from this year, which is the darkest one that they came out with. Here is what it looks like once you open it, and let's do the satisfying thing together. Here is what the actual case of the palette looks like. It's got a metal case with this beautiful design up front. I was confused about the theme for this year's palettes. Hourglass usually does animal themed holiday palettes because they usually, I think, always donate 1% of their profits to the Non-Human Rights Project, which is a non-profit organization, and then the holiday palettes come out and they donate 5% of the proceeds of these to the Non-Human Rights Project. Anyways, so this year they didn't do animal theme. They did the Lotus, they did the eye, and they did the dragon. And during a live video that I did last week, you guys were telling me that the theme of the collection was lucky things. The lotus flower is for luck, evil eye obviously for luck, and then also the dragon means luck as well. So that is what the theme was for this year. Once you open the Lotus palette, by the way, here is what the deepest colors look like. This first color is a highlighter in Gilded Strobe Lights. The second color is a blush in Desert Flush. Third is a finishing powder in Eternal Lights. The fourth shade is a highlighter in Radiant Rose Strobe Lights. This is a blush in Red O, and then the bronzer is called Bronze Heats. So let me go ahead and swatch these for you. Here is Gilded Strobe Light highlighter, blush in Desert Flush, finishing powder in Eternal Lights. I feel like for this one being the darkest palette, I can already see some inconsistencies, like why is the finishing powder darker than the blush? This blush will look good on me and I am super pale. I'm building it up a bit so you can see what it looks like built up. It's a beautiful, beautiful peachy shade. And once I finish swatching them, I'm going to show you what these look like swatched on my friend Erica Tesla. She has a dark complexion, not deep, but dark complexion, and I knew she was getting this palette, so I asked her to please swatch it on her skin so that I could show you guys what it looks like on a darker complexion as well. So let's move on to swatching the second row. I thought this color was going to be more red than it actually is. It looks a little pinky. So here is the highlighter in Radiant Rose Strobe Lights. That is a beautiful highlighter for dark and deep complexions for sure. Then we have the blush in Red O, which is also a beautiful blush color for dark and also I think deep complexions. And then the bronzer in Bronze Heat, which is not very dark. These don't always look the best swatched. They always look the best once they are on the face, but I truly don't see that bronzer color being a lot darker than someone with a dark complexion. Take a look right here at all 6 swatches of the Lotus palette. I immediately want to start comparing things. I want to compare the bronzer to previous bronzer releases because the bronzer in the darkest palette is always the topic of conversation. It is always the thing that we're like, but that's not dark enough. So I want to see if it's darker than the Tiger palette, and I want to see if it's darker than the Snake palette from previous years. Let's do the Snake palette first, and the bronzer in the Snake palette is this one. It's called Solar Bronze. I'm going to swatch it right here next to it and see how it compares. I think depth-wise, they are very, very similar to one another. The one in this year's palette maybe is a bit more red, but like barely, there's barely a difference. I'm going to build it up just like I did with the Lotus one because fair is fair. And when I put it a little further away, I do think that the one in the Lotus palette is a bit darker than the one in the Snake palette. Not by too much, but I do think that this one is a little more cool tone and also a little darker. And then the Tiger palette doesn't actually have a bronzer. What it has is this right here, which is a finishing powder in Transcendent Light. But it kind of looks bronzy-ish, so even though it's not supposed to be a bronzer, I want to compare it just in case because I feel like some people did end up using it as a bronzer. So take a look right here at what that finishing powder looks like in comparison to the bronzers in the other two palettes. They are also similar to one another. This is the finishing powder. These are the ones that are bronzers. I mean, they are baked powders. You can truly use them however you would like. Like I said, I know that some people ended up using this finishing powder kind of as a bronzer. And there's honestly not that much difference between all three shades. Here's what my friend Erica Tesla looks like. She is an absolute beauty. If you guys are not following her, you definitely should. She's also a content creator and I absolutely love everything she posts. And this is what the swatches of the Lotus palette look like on someone who is her complexion. So if you guys have a similar skin tone to hers, you can kind of get an idea of where you fall in comparison to the tones of these shades. Moving on to the Lucky Eye palette, which is the one for medium complexions. Here's what the packaging of this one looks like. And here is the inside of the Lucky Eye palette. This shade right here is a finishing powder and it is the already existing shade in this palette. This one is the finishing powder in Soft Light. Then we have a new highlighter, Rose Gold Strobe Light, blush in Pink Fusion, blush in Oasis Glow, blush in Vibrant Coral, and bronzer in Natural Bronze. I'm glad that they decided to go with a cool tone bronzer for the medium palette as well this year, because if I remember correctly, last year the only palette that had a cool tone bronzer was the Jellyfish palette, which was the lightest of the three. And let's go ahead and swatch these. Here's the finishing powder in Soft Light, highlighter in Rose Gold Strobe Light, blush in Pink Fusion, blush in Oasis Glow, and this one is like a peachy blush with gold sparkles. Then we have the blush in Vibrant Coral and the bronzer in Natural Bronze right here. And I'm building up the shades a bit more so you can see the swatches nicely. So take a look right here at the swatches of the Evil Eye palette. This one has a ton of blushes. It has 3 different blushes, 1 highlighter, 1 setting powder, and the bronzer right there. On another note, that bronzer looks lovely. I feel like I definitely will like it. I think I'm not only going to get use out of the Dragon palette this year, but this one looks amazing as well. I feel like I could definitely work with these shades. I kind of hate my lipstick color. It's the Anastasia lip liner in the shade Mocha and a clear gloss over top, but I'm looking so warm and I don't like it. So this is Westwood lip liner from ColourPop, much better already. And I'm just going to do the same lip balm I had on, which is the one from Ole Henriksen. Love that. Perfect. Now I can move on with the video. Third but not last, the Dragon palette, which is actually the one that I am most excited about. And I of course will try every single one on my face. I just wanted to get the swatches out of the way first. Here is the outer box of the Dragon palette, and here is what the actual packaging of it looks like. Once you open it, take a look right here at the soft, much softer actually, colors you get inside of this one. In this one you have 2 finishing powders, 2 blushes, a bronzer, and a highlighter. In this one we have finishing powder in Dream Light, blush in Peach Fusion, which I'm dying to try, finishing powder in Divine Lights, blush in Mauve Haze, bronzer in Soft Bronze, and the highlighter in Sunlit Strobe Lights. So here's the finishing powder in Dream Light, the Peach Fusion blush, Divine Light finishing powder. Then we have the Mauve Haze blush, the Soft Bronze bronzer, and the Sunlit Strobe Light highlighter. Just like with the previous palette, I'm just going to intensify these shades just a tad bit more. There we go. And this way you can see the swatches better. Here's what it looks like super close to the camera, which does wash out the colors a bit in comparison to when they're further away from the light. See, you can see the colors a little bit better this way. I am excited to put all of these powders on my face, so let's get started with that. So now that everything has been swatched, I want to show you what the palettes look like on my complexion, starting with the Lotus palette, which is the darkest of the 3. This one is not meant for someone with my complexion. However, I'm going to try and see if I can kind of sort of make it work for me and at least show you the shades that would work for me. So for example, I'm not going to be using the finishing powder because I don't see myself being able to use that for anything, but I'll try the other products. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and make the bronzer work for me. This is a Rephr number 5 brush, and I am just going to pigment it. That is a good sign. I'm going to try and blend it and work it into my skin. This one is definitely going to look better on someone with a darker complexion. Blending it on the jawline next. And you know what? Maybe if I mix it with the setting powder, it'll be a little lighter. A little warmer for sure. Maybe that wasn't the best idea. I'm honestly very happy it doesn't actually work for me and my light complexion, because it shouldn't. This should work on someone like my friend Erica Tesla or darker. So here's what that looks like. I know I look a little silly, but again, it's not meant for me. I'm going in with Desert Flush next, which is the very light blush that I'm not sure makes sense in this palette. And I'm going to add it to my cheek. See, I knew that one would look okay on me. It's just such a light blush for a dark palette. I'm going to just switch my blush brush around and I'm going to go into Red O, which is a pretty dark reddish toned blush. So I'm going to be very light-handed with this one. And I'm going to put it on this side of my face. See, this one on me looks a little like someone slapped me. But I'm glad, because again, these shouldn't work on me. It should work on someone with a dark complexion. Ouch. Ah. So then let's try the highlighters. I'm going to use Alexandra Anel's Rephr brush, and I'm going to start with this one called Eternal Lights and add it right up here. That's what that looks like. I dusted off any excess and I'm going into the shade Radiant Rose Strobe Light and adding that one to my slapped side. Okay, so that's what that looks like on me. Again, I look slapped, but I'm sure it will be lovely on someone with a dark complexion. So take a look at that. This is the Lotus palette on my pale face. Back with a fresh face, let's try on the Evil Eye palette. I feel like I've been calling this one the Lucky Eye palette instead of the Evil Eye palette. You guys know what I'm saying. It's this one. First things first, the bronzer in the shade Natural Bronze. And this one I do think will work for me. And I'm once again using a Rephr number 5 brush. Still nice and pigmented, super cool toned. Depth-wise, I feel like it's not too different from the one in the Lotus palette, because I remember it giving me a similar effect when I first applied it. I'm blending it on this cheek. If you have my complexion and you like the blushes on the Evil Eye palette better, you could definitely make this bronzer work for you. And I'm even going to do the sides of my nose a bit. So here's what the bronzer alone from the Evil Eye palette looks like blended. We have 3 different blushes to try for this one. So I think I'm going to do this one first since it's the lightest one. That is the blush in the color Oasis Glow, which is the one that's kind of like a warm color Ooh, I dipped my brush in the wrong shade. I'm going to try this blush color first, I was saying, because it's the lightest one and because it's like a peachy toned blush with just a bit of sparkle added to it. So take a look at what it looks like on its own right here. Honestly, to me, it looks a bit more bronzy, highlighty, rather than like a blush shade. This is the blush shade if you don't like a lot of color in your blush. It's pretty. I could do without the sparkle, but I don't really mind them. I don't feel like it's making my texture show or anything, but that is what it looks like. So I'm going to try this blush next. This is in the shade Vibrant Coral, and I'll put it on this side of the face. So here's what Vibrant Coral looks like. It honestly is a stunning blush shade. I love it. Let's try this one next. That is the shade Pink Fusion, and I'm going to add it right here on top so you see it on its own. I blended the other one a little further down. I only have 2 cheeks and this palette has 3 blushes, so bear with me. Here's what that one looks like by the Temple. With this palette, I can try the finishing powder. This one is not going to be brightening on me, but it'll work at mixing everything together and making everything look super seamless. Take a look right there. And I'm using it with the Alexandra Arnell brush. I can actually work with this finishing powder. It looks pretty good, even on my light complexion. So if you have a light skin like mine, you can 100% work with this Evil Eye palette for sure. One last product we have to try, and that is the highlighter in the shade Rose Gold Strobe Light. And here's what the highlighter looks like. Pretty, but I do feel like this type of highlighter, even from Hourglass, which they have amazing formulas, it enhances my texture on my face. See? I don't love it. I can work with it. I don't mind it, but I don't love it. Besides the highlighter though, I 100% adore and can work with every single other shade in the Evil Eye palette. As you can see, I tried every single shade, and here is what things look like. Last time, fresh face, and it is time to try the Dragon palette. So first things first, we are going in with bronzer. And once again, I am using my Rephr number 5. I've just been cleaning it in between bronzer applications, and here's what the lightest bronzer looks like on my complexion. Really pretty. I felt like it was looking a bit too shadowy on this side, so I just shifted one of my lights a bit. Here's what the bronzer looks like a bit more accurately. Time for the forehead. This one has a beautiful cool tone, a beautiful natural finish to it. Let's put some on the jawline. So far so good. I love it. Let me also add some bronzer to my nose. Different Rephr number 5, and I am dying to try this peachy, beautiful, stunning shade right here. It is called Peach Fusion. I feel like mine might be a little overbaked because it's not going on my brush super easily. But here we have it, and here is what it looks like blended on my cheek. I love it. That is such a beautiful blush shade. Obsessed. So good. Switching to the other side of my brush, and I'm going to grab the Mauvey blush shade. This one I'm having no trouble picking up at all. So here we have Mauve Haze over on this side. And this is a blush color I absolutely love. It almost looks a little brown. It's like a very, very muted mauve toned blush. This is exactly the type of blush I liked before I liked blushes. Like when I was very, very afraid of blushes, this is the type of shade I would go for because it looks so natural, almost a bit bronzy. It's like the Barely There blush. I love it. Very pretty. I suspected this would be my favorite palette, but when I tried the Evil Eye palette, I was questioning that. I was like, maybe the Evil Eye palette is better. I'm back to thinking this is still my favorite. Let me go ahead and try both of the finishing powders, starting with Dreamlight right here, which is the one that's repeated. I've tried Dreamlight a million times. Maybe I shouldn't try Dreamlight anymore, but here we are. So with a small brush, I'm just going to dust it over what I did and right under the eye here to bring everything together. And I'm going to do the same thing with the new finishing powder, which is the shade Divine Lights. And so on this side, I'm just going to fuse everything together with it and also swipe it over the under eye. That is beautiful, and both of them have a reflectiveness to them that looks very natural, but also kind of highlighty on the cheek without having sparkle or anything. Last but not least, the highlight color. This is a BK Beauty 212 brush, and I'm just going to add just the top bit of it right here on the tops of my cheekbones. It's a pretty intense highlighter. Again, I feel it enhances my texture, so the highlighter is not the reason why I would be buying this palette. The rest of the shades though, I love. The highlighter is not bad. It doesn't enhance my texture that much. I could use it if I wanted to, but I think I would rather not use it and just use these finishing shades as like that bit of highlighter. See, like right here, it looks a bit glowy, but it's not super shiny, and I'm happy with this amount of glow. I am going to make myself even though. So here's the highlighter on this side. Here we have it. This is what all shades of the Dragon palette look like on my face. I like the Mauve blush, but I love the peachy blush, which is kind of exactly what, like I thought I would. I love the finishing powders. The bronzer is perfection. I see myself using this one quite a bit. I ended up scraping, by the way, quite a bit of that top layer out of my peachy blush. I did that with my nails, not very carefully. But I think my blush had a bit of a hard cast on the top, so I literally just scraped a bit off just like this with my nail, and I was able to grab the shade after that. Let me give you my final thoughts on this whole collection. I'm glad, by the way, I don't have to take my makeup off anymore. Here are my thoughts. If you have my complexion and up to a medium complexion, you do not need the Lotus palette. This one is definitely for tan and dark complexions, maybe not deep, but tan and dark for sure. Now here is the twist and pleasant surprise. I thought I was going to be in love with the Dragon palette and the Dragon palette only, which I am. I love it. It's fantastic. It is my #1 favorite from this collection, and I highly recommend it. However, the Evil Eye palette was a pleasant surprise because I was able to make it work. The bronzer worked for me. Every single one of the blush shades worked for me. Even the highlighter in this one worked for me. The finishing powder worked for me. Every single shade in this palette worked for me, which was a pleasant surprise. And I absolutely do see myself using this one as well. My favorite, it's still the Dragon, which I thought from the beginning would be, and I do. I love it. The bronzer in the Dragon palette is perfection if you have a light complexion like mine. It's soft, it looks natural, it's cool tone, it sculpts and bronzes all at the same time. The peachy blush is absolute perfection. The Mauve blush I also really, really love. The one thing I'm not impressed with is the highlighters, but that's me because I'm a highlighter hater. I can understand that that is my problem. I wouldn't use any of the highlighters in any of the palettes, but I do really love the finishing powders as that bit of a pearlescent finish that I look for as my highlighter, even though it's not a highlight like this. It's not metallic, it's just a beautiful glowy finish. The finishing powders do that for me, and so I'm very, very happy that these palettes have finishing powders in them and that the Dragon one has 2 finishing powders in them. If you were thinking about it, absolutely do go for these palettes. I hope that what I inserted from my friend Erica Tesla on the Lotus one was helpful. I haven't seen the footage yet, so hopefully it was helpful to you. Here are the comparisons, I promise you. Bottom to top, I have the Lotus palette at the bottom, Tiger palette in the middle, Snake palette on top, so you can see the deepest palettes compared to one another from this year and the past 2 years, in case that is helpful. Here are the medium palettes compared to one another. At the bottom I have the Evil Eye palette, center palette is the Elephant palette, and then the top palette is the Leopard palette. So here's a side-by-side of this year's versus the last 2 years holiday palettes. And then last but not least, at the bottom I have the Dragon palette. Middle palette is the Jellyfish one from last year, which was my favorite before the new ones came out. I have to reassess now. And then the top palette is the Butterfly palette from 2 years ago, which honestly was not great. The Jellyfish palette right here in the middle though was my like leading most favorite one of these. So I have to see if the new one is better than this one. I'll have to update you guys in a different video because I did absolutely love the Dragon palette at the bottom there. So here's that comparison. If you guys liked this video, don't forget to please give it a thumbs up, and please leave me your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you want to purchase one of these palettes, please do so using the link I left you right down in the description box. As I said, when you shop for my links, you are helping my channel. I love you all so much. Thank you for watching today's video. I truly hope it was helpful. I don't want to have to take my makeup off again in a whole week. That was a lot. Anyways, I love you all. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you back in the next video. Bye.